The woman on Cole Harwood's porch was dying, and she was offering him the one thing he'd sworn he'd never want again: a wife. Snow whipped across the Montana plains in sheets so thick Cole could barely see his own barn from the kitchen window. He'd just poured his third cup of coffee when the pounding started, desperate. Arrhythmic, the sound of someone using their last bit of strength. He crossed the room in 4 strides and yanked open the door. She fell forward into his arms like a puppet with cut strings. For a heartbeat, his brain refused to process what he was seeing. Bare legs, blue-tinged skin, a thin nightgown so soaked and frozen it might as well have been made of ice. Dark hair plastered to a face that was more ghost than woman. Jesus Christ. Her fingers clawed at his shirt, and when she looked up at him, her eyes were wild with something beyond fear, beyond cold, something primal. "Please," she gasped, the words scraping out of her throat like broken glass. "Please, I'll do anything. I'll cook, I'll clean, I'll—" Her knees buckled, but she fought to stay upright, fought to get the words out. "I'll be your wife. Just let me stay. Don't send me back. Please don't send me back." Then her eyes rolled back, and she went limp. Cole caught her before she hit the ground, his heart slamming against his ribs. She weighed almost nothing, all bone and frozen skin and desperation. He kicked the door shut against the howling wind and carried her straight to the guest room, his mind already running through everything he knew about hypothermia. Get her warm, not too fast. Strip the wet clothes, blankets, warm liquids if she wakes up. He laid her on the bed and got his first real look at her in the lamplight. Mid-20s, maybe. Pretty in a way that would have been striking if half her face wasn't mottled purple and white from the cold. The nightgown, what was left of it, was torn at the shoulder and along, one side exposing ribs that showed too clearly beneath her skin. Her feet were raw and bleeding, toenails blue-black, but it was the bruises that made his jaw lock tight. Fresh ones, dark purple, circling her upper arms like handprints. Older ones, yellow-green, scattered across her collarbone and disappearing beneath the nightgown. Someone had put their hands on this woman, recently, repeatedly, and then someone had left her to die in a blizzard. Cole's hands were steady as he worked. They had to be. He'd delivered breech calves, stitched up horses, pulled his best friend out of a frozen creek when they were 17. You didn't survive ranch life without learning to keep your head when everything went to hell. He grabbed scissors from the bathroom and cut away the nightgown, keeping his eyes clinical, detached. This wasn't about modesty. This was about survival. More bruises. A long scratch down her side that looked like barbed wire. Rope burns around one wrist. His jaw ached from clenching. He wrapped her in every dry blanket he owned, piled quilts on top, and positioned the space heater close, but not too close. Then he filled a basin with lukewarm water and began working on her, hands and feet, massaging gently, watching for signs of frostbite. "Come on," he muttered. "Don't you dare die on me. Not after you made it this far." 5 minutes passed. 10. Then her eyelids fluttered. Cole leaned forward. "Hey, can you hear me?" Her eyes opened. Hazel, he noticed, ringed with exhaustion so deep it looked like pain. They darted around the room, panicked, before landing on his face. "Where?" Her voice cracked. "You're safe," he said immediately, keeping his tone low and even. "You're at Harwood Ranch, about 15 miles off Route 89. I'm Cole Harwood. You collapsed on my porch about 20 minutes ago. You were hypothermic. Still are, but you're warming up." She stared at him like she was trying to decide if he was real. "I'm alive?" "Very much so. Though you gave it your best shot not to be." He reached for the thermos he'd prepared. "I need you to drink this." Warm broth. Small sips. He slid an arm behind her shoulders and lifted her just enough to bring the cup to her lips. She drank like someone who'd forgotten what warmth tasted like, and he had to pull it back twice to keep her from gulping too fast. "Easy. You'll make yourself sick." After a few more sips, some color started creeping back into her lips. She sagged against his arm, and he carefully lowered her back to the pillows. "What's your name?" he asked. She hesitated, fear flickering across her face. Then, quietly. Emma. Emma Caldwell. Emma. He nodded. All right. Emma, I need to know, are you hurt anywhere besides the cold? Anything broken? Bleeding I can't see? She shook her head slowly. I don't think so. Good. That's good. He sat back, giving her space. You said something when you got here, about being someone's wife, about not being sent back. You want to tell me what that was about? Her whole body went rigid beneath the blankets. I shouldn't have said that, she whispered. I wasn't thinking straight. Her breath hitched. I didn't know what else to offer. Cole's chest tightened. Emma, look at me. She did, reluctantly. You don't have to offer me anything, he said. You showed up half frozen on my doorstep in the middle of a blizzard. That means I help you. That's not a transaction. That's just being human. You understand? Tears welled up in her eyes and spilled over, tracking down her temples into her hair. You don't know what I did, she choked out. You don't know what he'll say I did. Who's he? She closed her eyes. My husband, Marcus Caldwell. The name hit Cole like a fist to the gut. He knew that name. Everyone in 3 counties knew that name. Marcus Caldwell owned the Caldwell Cattle Company, 10,000 acres, 300 head of cattle, and enough money to buy his way out of just about anything. He sat on the county board, donated to the sheriff's re-election campaign, and had his face on half the billboards between here and Billings. And apparently, he beat his wife. He's going to come looking for me, Emma whispered. When the storm clears, he'll tell everyone I'm crazy, that I ran off in the middle of the night because I'm unstable. He'll make them believe him. He always does. Cole's hands curled into fists on his knees. What happened tonight, Emma? She was quiet for so long, he thought she might not answer. Then, in a voice so small, it barely carried across the space between them. I told him I wanted a divorce. The words hung in the air like smoke. He laughed, she continued, staring at the ceiling. He said, I didn't get to decide that I was his wife, his property, and if I ever tried to leave, he'd make sure I regretted it. Her voice went flat, distant. Then he grabbed me by the hair, dragged me outside, and threw me in his truck. Drove me out to the middle of nowhere. Told me if I wanted to leave so badly, I could walk. Cole's vision went red at the edges. He took my coat first, she said, and my shoes. Said if the cold didn't teach me a lesson, nothing would. Then he drove away. How long were you out there? I don't know. Hours, maybe. I just kept walking. I saw your light through the snow and I thought... Her voice broke. I thought if I could just make it to a door, any door, maybe someone would help me. But I didn't have anything to trade. No money, no skills, nothing. So when you opened the door, I just said the first thing I could think of that might make you let me stay. She turned her head to look at him, eyes red-rimmed and desperate. I'm sorry, she whispered. I know that's insane, offering to marry a complete stranger. But I was so scared you'd turn me away, that you'd call him, that you'd... Emma, Cole's voice cut through her spiral. Stop. Breathe. She sucked in a shaky breath. I'm not calling him, Cole said. I'm not turning you away. And you sure as hell don't need to marry me to stay alive. What I am going to do is make sure you're medically okay, and then we're going to call the sheriff and tell him exactly what happened. Panic flashed across her face. No, you can't. Sheriff Dawson and Marcus are friends. They go hunting together. He won't believe me. Then we'll go over his head, Cole said. State police, FBI if we have to. Emma, what your husband did is attempted murder. You don't just get to throw someone out in a blizzard and drive away. You don't understand, she said desperately. Marcus has money, connections, lawyers. I have nothing. I'm nobody. Who's going to believe me over him? I will. The words came out harder than he meant them to, but he didn't take them back. Emma stared at him. You don't even know me. I know enough, he said. I know you walked through a blizzard barefoot to survive. I know someone put those bruises on you, and I know that any man who'd leave his wife to freeze to death doesn't deserve to call himself a man, let alone a husband. Something shifted in her expression, disbelief warring with the faintest spark of hope. "Why are you helping me?" she whispered. Cole was quiet for a moment. "Then, 7 years ago, my wife died in a car accident. Drunk driver ran a red light. She was 2 months pregnant." Emma's breath caught. "I spent a long time after that wondering what the point was," he continued, "of getting up, of keeping the ranch going, of any of it. And then one day I realized, the point is that when someone needs help, you help them. Because maybe if someone had helped that drunk bastard before he got behind the wheel, Sarah would still be here." He met her eyes. "I can't save everyone, Emma, but I can save you. So that's what I'm going to do." Silence settled between them, broken only by the howl of wind against the windows and the soft hiss of the space heater. Finally, Emma spoke. "What if I can't pay you back? What if I'm just a burden?" "Then you're a burden," Cole said with a shrug. "Ranch is full of them. Got a horse with a bum leg I should have put down 2 years ago. Got a barn cat with 3 legs who can't catch mice worth a damn. Got a dog so old he can't hear thunder anymore. They all still got a place here." Despite everything, a tiny broken laugh escaped her. "You're comparing me to livestock?" "I'm saying everything that ends up on this ranch gets taken care of," he said. "No exceptions." The laugh turned into a sob, and then she was crying in earnest, deep, wrenching. Sounds that seemed to come from somewhere ancient and wounded. Cole didn't try to stop her. He just sat there, steady and present, until the storm inside her began to quiet. When she finally went still, exhausted, he stood. "I'm going to make you some real food. Eggs, toast, maybe some bacon. You're going to eat, and then you're going to sleep. We'll figure out the rest tomorrow." "Cole?" He paused in the doorway. "Thank you," she whispered. For not making me pay." His throat worked. He closed the door softly behind him and stood in the hallway for a long moment. Hands braced against the wall, breathing hard. Then he went to the kitchen and started cooking. The storm blew itself out by morning, leaving the world buried under 2 feet of fresh snow. Cole was up before dawn, checking the livestock, breaking ice on water troughs, making sure the generator was still running. When he came back inside, Emma was awake, sitting at the kitchen table wrapped in one of his flannel shirts and a pair of sweatpants he'd left outside her door. Her hair was damp from a shower, and she looked almost human again, if you didn't count the bruises or the haunted look in her eyes. "Coffee," he offered. "Please." He poured 2 cups and sat across from her. For a while, neither of them spoke. Then Emma said, "He's going to come today." Cole nodded. "Probably. What are you going to do?" "Depends on what he does," Cole said. "But Emma, I need you to understand something. This is my land, my home. He doesn't get to just walk in here and take you. Not unless you tell me that's what you want." "It's not," she said immediately. "Then he's not taking you. He'll make trouble for you," she warned. "He'll sue you, ruin you. He has the money to—" "Let him try," Cole said flatly. "I've been running this ranch since I was 24 years old. Survived droughts, floods, market crashes, and losing everyone I loved. Marcus Caldwell doesn't scare me." Emma studied him over the rim of her coffee cup. "You really mean that?" "Every word." She was quiet for a moment. "Then, last night, when I said I'd be your wife, part of me meant it." Cole went very still. "Not because I was desperate," she continued quickly, "or not just because of that, but because in 30 seconds you showed me more kindness than Marcus did in 3 years of marriage. And I thought, if this is the kind of man who exists in the world, maybe I've been looking in all the wrong places." "Emma, I'm not asking you to marry me," she said with a faint smile. "I'm just saying, thank you for reminding me that decent men exist." Before Cole could respond, the sound of an engine cut through the morning quiet. They both turned toward the window. A black Mercedes SUV was coming up the long driveway, moving fast, spitting snow from its tires. Emma's face went white. "That's him." Cole stood. "Stay inside." "Cole, stay inside." His voice left no room for argument. He grabbed his coat and walked out onto the porch, closing the door firmly behind him. The cold bit at his face, but he barely felt it. The SUV skidded to a stop in front of the house, and Marcus Caldwell climbed out. He was exactly what Cole expected: tall, broad-shouldered, expensive jacket, perfect hair, and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Morning," Marcus called out, all friendly charm. "Hell of a storm we had. I'm looking for my wife." "Emma Caldwell? I think she might have gotten turned around in the blizzard last night. Blonde, about 5'5". You seen her?" Cole leaned against the porch railing, arms crossed. "I might have." Marcus's smile tightened. "Well, that's a relief. She's not well, you see. Gets confused sometimes. Wanders off. I've been worried sick." "That's so." "It is." Marcus took a step closer. "So if you could just point me to her, I'll get her home and out of your hair." "She says you threw her out of a truck in the middle of a blizzard," Cole said conversationally. "Says you took her coat and shoes first, left her to die." The mask slipped. Just for a second. Then Marcus laughed. "Smooth, practiced. Is that what she told you?" "Jesus. I knew she was getting bad, but I didn't think she'd start making up stories like that." "Funny thing about stories," Cole said. "The bruises seemed to back hers up." Marcus's eyes went cold. "I don't know what game you think you're playing, friend, but that's my wife in there, and I'm taking her home." "Now." "No," Cole said. "You're not." "Excuse me?" "You heard me." Cole straightened to his full height, 6'2" of ranch-hardened muscle and zero patience. "She doesn't want to go with you." "So she's not going." Marcus's jaw clenched. "You're harboring my wife against her will. That's kidnapping." "She's here of her own free will," Cole said. "And if you don't get off my property in the next 30 seconds, I'm calling the sheriff and telling him you tried to murder your wife last night." "Sheriff Dawson is a personal friend of mine," Marcus said, voice dropping to something ugly. "You really think he's going to take your word over mine?" "Maybe not," Cole said, "but I'm willing to bet the state police will be interested. And the FBI. And every news station between here and Denver once they hear about Marcus Caldwell, pillar of the community, leaving his wife to freeze to death." For the first time, uncertainty flickered across Marcus's face. "You don't want to make an enemy of me," he said quietly. "Too late," Cole replied. "Now get off my land." They stood there, locked in a silent battle of wills, the wind whipping snow between them. Then the front door opened. Emma stepped out onto the porch, still wrapped in Cole's clothes, chin lifted despite the fear in her eyes. "I'm not going with you, Marcus," she said, voice shaking but clear. "I want a divorce. And if you ever come near me again, I'll make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of man you are." Marcus stared at her, and for a moment, Cole saw the monster beneath the mask, cold, calculating, furious. "You'll regret this," Marcus said softly. "Both of you." Then he turned, climbed back into his SUV, and drove away. Emma's knees buckled the moment he was out of sight. Cole caught her, holding her steady as she shook. "It's okay," he murmured. "You did good. You stood up to him." "He's going to come back," she whispered. "Maybe," Cole said. "But next time, we'll be ready." 3 months later, Emma stood in the kitchen of Harwood Ranch, flour dusting her hands as she rolled out pie crust. Outside, spring was beginning to creep across the Montana plains, melting. The last of the snow and coaxing green, shoots from the frozen ground. The divorce papers had been filed. Marcus had tried to fight it, hired expensive lawyers, spread rumors, made threats, but Emma had held firm, and with Cole standing beside her at every court appearance, every meeting, every moment she thought she might break, she'd won. The house was hers. Well, half of it. The judge had been surprisingly sympathetic once he'd seen the medical reports documenting years of abuse. But Emma didn't want the house. She'd signed it over to Marcus in exchange for a clean break and enough money to start over. And she'd started over here. Not as Cole's wife, not yet anyway, but as his friend, his ranch hand, his partner in the daily work of keeping a piece of land alive. She'd learned to mend fences, bottle feed calves, drive the tractor, and fix the ancient truck that only started on even-numbered days. She'd learned what it felt like to wake up without fear, to go to bed without wondering if tonight would be the night he finally went too far. She'd learned what it felt like to be free. The front door opened, and Cole stomped in, shaking snow from his hat. "Thought spring was supposed to be here," he grumbled. Emma laughed. "It's Montana. Spring doesn't show up till June." He crossed to the sink to wash his hands, and she felt his presence beside her, solid, steady, safe. "Pie?" he asked, eyeing the crust. "Apple. Your favorite?" "You're spoiling me. You saved my life," she said lightly. "I think you've earned some pie." Cole was quiet for a moment. Then, "Emma," she looked up at him. "That thing you said," he began. "That first night, about being my wife." Her heart stuttered. "Cole, I told you I wasn't thinking straight." "I know," he said, "but I've been thinking about it, a lot. And I was wondering—" He cleared his throat, suddenly looking uncomfortable. "If maybe you'd want to say it again, sometime, when you're ready, and mean it the way I'd want you to mean it." Emma set down the rolling pin, pulse racing. "And how would that be?" "As a choice," he said quietly. "Not a bargain, not a trade, just a choice. Because you want this life, this ranch, me." She stepped closer, flour-dusted hands reaching up to cup his face. "Cole Harwood," she said softly, "I chose you the moment you didn't make me pay for being saved. I chose you every day after that, and if you're asking what I think you're asking—" "I am," he said. "I'm asking if you'll marry me. For real this time. Not because you're desperate or scared or running, but because you want to." Emma smiled, a real smile, bright and unbroken. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, I'll be your wife." And when he kissed her, it tasted like spring and second chances and the kind of love that didn't demand payment. It tasted like home.